Hi folks, my name is Carl and welcome back to my channel. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Also like and share the videos and leave a comment down below. Now, in today's video, if you're interested in visiting Canada or coming to Canada for school or for work or any other purpose, you might want to listen to this. So, as you might be aware, a lot has been happening in Canada lately, especially with regards to immigration policies. Some of them have been changed and some of them have been, cancelled and stuff like that, And I'm sure some of you might have already heard about these changes. So sometime in March 2024 and also sometime in August 2024, there have been a number of immigration policy changes. Now, some of the major changes include, visitors not being able to switch from the visit or change from the visit visa to a work permit. Now, prior to this policy change or cancellation, if you were in Canada on a visit visa and you were able to secure or get a job offer or something like that, then you could switch from a visit visa to a work permit. Now, guess what? That has been cancelled, right? So if you're here on a visit visa and you're able to, get a job offer or something like that, you will no longer be able to apply for your work permit in Canada. To do that, you'd have to go back to your home country and submit your work permit application in your home country. And then when you get it, you move to Canada, So that's one of the major policy changes. Another one is the cap on the number of student visas or student permits that are going to be issued. So the government is also looking at trying to cap, the number of students that are coming in to Canada. There's been a whole lot of talk about how that is impacting the economy and stuff like that, So that's a different conversation. Another major change affects students that have a postgraduate work permit. So, for some students that school here, if they qualify, after their education, they are able to apply for something called a postgraduate work permit. You don't need a job offer to apply for that permit. This allows you to stay in Canada and look for a job. So some of these policy changes actually affected, or it's going to affect these students. And as was stated in the news a couple of weeks ago, about 70,000 students were at risk of being deported after their postgraduate work permit expires. We are going to be talking about this postgraduate work permit in one of our videos. So just stay tuned. So you know what? These changes that were announced actually sparked some protests, especially with the postgraduate work permits. A lot of students were worried and these sparked some protests. Anyway, that on the side. Now, a lot of things have been happening in the background since these immigration policy changes were announced. Number one, there have been a lot of entry refusals at Canada's airports. Now, according to the records, in July alone, Canada refused entry at its airports to about 5,853 people. So those are people that arrived at the airport and were turned back. That's one of the things that's been happening in the background. Now, this was a result of, again, the second thing that has been happening in the background. So now when you get to the airport, there are a lot of questions that you may need to answer, especially for first-time travelers to Canada. So usually there's a lot of profiling going on and you might get pulled aside and asked a lot of questions. Now, guess what? If you get any of those questions wrong or those questions do not tally with your application that you submitted earlier to get the visa, you may be turned back. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Now, a lot of that has been happening in the background. And also, a lot of people are facing threats of being deported from Canada. Okay, now those are some of the things that have been happening in the background. And the main one that I really want to talk about is the visa denials. Okay, so guess what? There are a lot of people that are being refused visas now. Okay, many people are getting their Canada visa applications refused. Denied. It is almost as if Canada is clamping down and trying to really, really limit the number of people that come in. Okay. These are the things that have been going on in the background. And sometimes these visa refusals they're quite shocking, I must say. Let me give you an example. So usually when you want to apply for a visit visa, and you have travel history, let's say you want to travel to Canada, and you have travel history to the US, or you even have a valid US visit visa, you've been to the UK, you've even been to Canada before, and your visa is expired, and you want to renew and come back to Canada. It's quite a straightforward process, and it's not that difficult. Now, guess what? There is no guarantee these days, So there are some people that have all this history. They have a very good travel history, very good financial assets, good ties to their home countries. They've visited countries like the US, UK, even Canada itself. And now they're trying to renew their Canada visa to travel to Canada, and they are being refused. Okay, these are just shocking, right? It's quite difficult to explain why someone like this would be refused. I do get it that applying for a visa, it's like any other application. You could get accepted, or you could get denied or refused. But where the conditions or where the application profile is quite strong, you would expect that the person would go through. So this kind of reflects, the nature of what is going on these days when it comes to Canada, right? So my advice here is, before you submit any application to come to Canada, as a visitor, as a student, as a worker, please make sure you have everything on point. Another example is that there's a student that was coming for school for a master's program, had everything paid. Their tuition was paid. They had enough money for, their living expenses and stuff like that. Everything checked out. Guess what? They were also refused. And when you look at their application profile, the kind of documents that they submitted and stuff like that, it is a very, very strong application, way over the amount of funds required, very good travel history, very good sponsors, like stuff like that. Like everything just checked out, but they got refused. So now it's kind of unpredictable when it comes to Canada, okay? So for applications like the visit visa that I just spoke about that was refused, where the profile is strong, the travel history is strong, the account balance, the bank statements is strong, everything just checks out. You do get a legitimate sense of feeling that the decision is harsh. So question is, when that happens, what can you do? Do you have any avenue, to try to seek some redress? The answer is yes. So you might want to stay tuned. Now, have you heard about something called a reconsideration letter? All right, now what's this reconsideration letter? So it's a letter that you actually type to IRCC asking them to reconsider the decision that they made on your visa application, right? So if you really had a strong set of documents, and you had a very strong profile, and legitimately you feel like, IRCC did not really look at this well, and you want them to have a second look, you send something called a reconsideration letter, where you state your strong points, because with your refusal letter, you would basically get an overview of the reasons why your visa application has been refused. So, in the reconsideration letter that you send to IRCC, what you need to do is address those issues and refer IRCC to the fact that your profile met these or fully met these requirements, okay? So you draft a reconsideration letter. For example, just saying if IRCC says, you don't have enough financial assets and you actually had a business going and you had a business registration, you had your business bank account, you had a personal bank account showing monies, and all of that, you highlight those again, send them to IRCC, explain it very, very well, possibly convert those amounts into Canadian dollars so they understand it properly, and make your case in the reconsideration letter, okay, and send it to IRCC. Now, guess what? There are people that have actually done this before and have been successful. A reconsideration letter. Think about it. So you can actually have this typed out, properly state your points and submit it to the IRCC, okay? Now, the question is, how do you submit this form? So you can actually raise a web form. So you go to the IRCC website and raise a web form and submit your reconsideration letter with any other document that you feel will make your case. So you can reattach your bank statements, you can reattach any other documents that you feel will make your case, and have IRCC take a second look at your application. All right. Now, in all this, a lot of people are losing hope in Canada, and some are actually considering not applying for Canada or not wanting to come to Canada anymore because of such things. Now, do not lose hope. My advice is always try to submit a very strong application. Put your best foot forward. The thing about any application, visa application to Canada, is that you do not go for an interview. And I keep telling people this, that you may not be able to go stand or sit in front of a visa officer to explain yourself. So make sure that whatever documents you're submitting, speak well for you. Okay, make sure everything is clear, make sure everything is laid out properly, so that there are no questions raised as that might lead to a refusal. Okay, all right, just keep that in mind. Again, if you're interested in moving to Canada permanently, you might want to check out my video, where I explain why I think the express entry is the best route to move to Canada. All right, I just wanted to share these with everyone. Let me know if this has been helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.